And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 114. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvang. I am joined by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good morning.
And Treg Wilson.
Hello.
So, not much happened. Thanks for listening. No, it's
Best show ever.
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy few days since the last episode. Couple games against Calgary. The Twitter exploded because of what happened in that series. You know, the usual stuff. But before we get started on the Habs, we can do a little bit of an around the league. Matt, you had some prepared statements regarding your status.
Yeah, so Alexander Ovechkin.
That. Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead.
My status. I'm not going to get into that. So Alexander Ovechkin, we'll get into him first. Last night, he tied Mike Gardner for seventh all-time in NHL scoring with 708. He's now 9 goals away from tying Phil Esposito for 6th. So congratulations to him. He's always been one of my favorite players. Just a fun guy to watch, right? He's always just every goal looks like his first goal, and he celebrates, and he's great for the league when he's not breaking COVID protocol.
That's true.
And I'll segue into the COVID thing. And there was news that Minnesota Wild first round pick Marco Rossi is returning to Austria to rest with his family due to complications from COVID-19. He was sidelined indefinitely due to an upper body injury on January 10th, and there hasn't been any other details regarding that. So it could be possible that he got the virus while he was recovering from the injury. Nobody seems to know. They haven't made any more statements regarding his illness. But you know what? This guy was a possible dark horse for the Calder. Like he turned heads, put up a lot of points for the Ottawa 67s, and played on a really weak Austria team during the juniors. But he was still a guy that you noticed every time he was on the ice. So wish him all the best. Hopefully he's back on the ice soon because he's got a promising career.
Yeah, he could have been able to play in Iowa this year because of the OHL not playing at the moment.
Yeah.
So that could have been a stepping stone for him if he didn't crack the lineup. But yeah, the COVID situation that trumps it all. So just hope he gets back 100% and he can do what he was gonna do anyway. Moving on from that, there's some more news in the league about Sidney Crosby and a possible trade eventually, where he stated if he were to ever leave Pittsburgh, it would be to only play for the Canadiens.
And now social media is abuzz with Montreal trading all their bottom feeder players to Pittsburgh for Sidney Crosby. Little background on that. Sidney Crosby was a Montreal Canadiens fan growing up. His father was drafted by the Canadiens in 78 or 79. And
I think it was 84, same year as
84.
Yeah, or 83, 84, whichever year that Roy got drafted.
Yeah.
So
they were
that
both.
year.
He was a goalie. Troy Crosby is his name, and he's not a very likable person. But anyway, So Crosby grew up a Canadiens fan his whole life. And he did say that I don't think Pittsburgh's stealing Crosby. I think there's rumors out there that Rutherford was fired because he was trying to trade Letang. And the ownership didn't want anything to do with that. They're still in a we want to win now situation. I think
good thing they didn't trade him because now he's hurt.
Yeah, and Rutherford. I think Rutherford wanted to rebuild the team, and ownership thinks they're in a win now situation. I'm kind of siding with Rutherford on all this, but so the rumors are going to run rampant on social media about Crosby. I wouldn't look too deep into it at this moment. I can't off the top of my head tell you when his contract is up or anything, but
not for a few more years, and it's a decent cap hit, 8.7. That's a good cap hit. So
yeah.
you know, great. So you imagine the Canadians do trade for him. He's got maybe 2-3 years left, and then his contract's going to be an albatross. All the people that are harping on when I posted a few days back that Vegas and Montreal won the Pacioretty trade, and everybody, almost to a person, was mocking me, calling that horse crap. Well, look what we got. We got Suzuki and Tatar, blah blah blah. Like, that's great. Well, Suzuki's younger, so we traded away an elite goal scorer and we got back a quality return. They get what they want. We get what we want. So if Montreal were to trade for Crosby, would these same people say that the Canadians won the trade?
Depends on who goes back.
But to get a Sidney Crosby, you're going to have to give up.
Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
he's a game-changing. He's an elite game-changing, mythical player of our time. Like, he's one of the.
He has been, yes. He has been.
Even today, I would take Sidney Crosby over most centers in the league.
Yeah, and for a couple more years, for sure. But then, who wins a trade in that? Because to get Crosby, you'd have to give up a Suzuki.
Oh, a Suzuki, a Caulfield, a first, and a Kotkaniemi or something like that. Like, you'd have to give up the entire farm to get someone like Crosby.
So who wins that? So
however, Pittsburgh's looking at hiring Peter Chiarelli, so you never know.
They'll trade him away for Magic Beans.
I heard a rumor that the Hextall was in the running for that. I just think that would just be, even though I think he would do very good for the organization, I just think that, like, you go from Philly, then you go to Pittsburgh, I'm like,
that would ruin his legacy.
It's a little weird. It's a little weird.
Ruin his legacy.
So
imagine if he goes to Montreal, he'd want to fight Chelios every time there's an alumni game.
But you got to think, though, he did really good things for Philly. He really did build up that team and build up the roster and everything. So
he helped out LA as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So
I'm definitely on the Chiarelli bandwagon, though.
Oh God, yeah, I'd love to see Chiarelli there.
I'll trade Crosby for Danault and Mete.
And Ryder, because fucking Gary Galley just had him on the ice a lot last night. So Ryder, second. We don't have Halak yet.
How long has it been since Ryder's was in the league? It's been what, 4 or 5 years since Ryder left?
Probably been longer than that. I think he
was in Detroit or Boston when he first stopped playing.
I'll give a guy once. But
I throughout the game.
Throughout the freaking game, you're doing it on purpose.
So I got Ryder here. Last season in the league was 14-15 with the Devils. He played 47 games and put up 19 points.
I tweeted when Galley said it the first time. I said, I can see the mistake, same number, they look alike. I get it. And then when he just kept repeating, I was like, well, now he's either doing it on purpose or, Gary Galley's the only color commentator that talks more than the play-by-play guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, stop with your stories. We want to hear what's going on with the game.
And most of the stories are bullshit.
Oh, 100%.
And stop with your terrible takes, because like the hit on Cocky. Well, we can get into that later, but
that is going to be a segment.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're calling him Ryder, call him. I can see the first time, but throughout the game, all night long, nobody just went, "Hey Gary, it's Toffoli."
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad. And then just change over. No. He's doing it. There's one of two reasons: you're doing it on purpose, or you're a friggin' idiot.
I go with the second.
What is it?
I go with the second one. I don't know why Sportsnet still has Galley doing color commentary. He's terrible.
For me, it's the fact that he does Canadians games. Like, you can tell that, like, he's not a Canadians fan whatsoever, and he goes out of his way.
He hates them. He hates them.
Right? He goes out of his way to say the most, like, to just like slide in negative stuff, and you could see someone skate through center ice with a skate attached to a stick, and like Buddy gets hit in the throat with it, and he'd be like, "Look pretty clean to me." Looks like he might have got a little bit, but look pretty clean to me.
If the Canadians player didn't do that, he wouldn't have gotten that.
Yeah,
it's all his fault. But anyway,
Gary Galley could be a whole conversation.
Yeah,
but I'm just gonna simmer a little bit because I know that we can talk about this for hours.
And what kills me is John Bartlett does an amazing job.
He does.
And he's saddled with Gary Galley, which drags him down and makes him look worse.
Well,
Yeah.
Galley doesn't let him talk.
That's my point.
Like Galley's just like, oh, I remember back in '86.
And it's not even a story that happened.
Yeah.
It's just his Adderall infused brain. Just, I'm imagining things.
I think Gino Ojic would do a better job play-by-play than Gary Galley. Anyone would.
So what we're saying is we don't like Gary Galley doing the Habs games.
I don't think he'd be good doing any game, personally, especially teams that he hates anyway.
Well, someone on Twitter last night, I can't remember who it was, but as the game was going on, I saw it. They said, "Oh, look, they cloned Mike Milbury."
I actually tweeted out to Sportsnet to please fire Gary Galley for all of hockey fans everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. Enough crapping on Gary Galley. He gets enough of that at home.
He's the Brendan Kelly of play-by-play.
That's an insult to everybody. Don't get me started on that guy either. Oh,
we'll have a whole show where we just trash the Hab people we hate.
The troll episode. All right, and the last piece for around the league, Mike Comito, friend of the show, is going to be releasing a new book, Hockey 365: The Second Period. So if you've had the good fortune of reading his first book, Hockey 365, it's stories for every single day. So every day you open the book, there's a different story that happened on that day. So he's got a new book out following along those same lines, a hockey story for every single calendar day. So it was an amazing read, the first one. We, as part of the show, gave away as a contest some of these books. We may do that again once the book comes out. I've already pre-ordered mine. I would suggest everyone else pre-order theirs. But those who don't, it might come up again where we hand out some more of these books because Mike does an amazing job and he has supported us, so we're going to support him.
Yeah, he's a must follow on Twitter too. The videos that he puts up and the pictures he puts up daily in support of Hockey 365. There's some really good stuff on there, and anybody that's a hockey fan can appreciate that. He's not just a fan of one team.
He is. He's a Leaf fan. I'm going to put it out there.
He is, but he isn't. Fan. At least you see stuff on there from all teams, and he does a very good job of it. And like I said, he's a must follow, so definitely check him out.
He works with LA, doesn't he? The Kings.
Yes, so he does work with the LA Kings. He also works with the Sudbury Wolves, and so he was the team historian for the Sudbury Wolves. He was the first time that Sudbury had a team historian. He put out some great stories, especially about Howler, the stuffed wolf that would come down from down to the scoreboard after every goal. So if anyone's been through the OHL and has gone to Sudbury for a game, they'll have experienced 5,000 screaming Sudburyans and a screaming wolf after every goal. And he put out a great story on that. But yes, he is a Leaf fan. He's raised a Leaf fan. However, he is now surrounded by Habs fans in Sudbury, living in the Francophone area of town. So, comment ça sent, Mike? Comment ça sent? T'aimes ça? T'aimes ça? Oh, je te gage. So, but yeah, check out Mike's book. Pre-order it. I have. And thanks, Mike. Okay, so we'll move on. We're going to go into our Habs stuff now. We're going to talk about the Calgary series. We're going to break that down a little bit. So the Canadians are 1-1. Okay, that was great. So moving on. Nothing happened. It was completely uneventful.
Well, the first game, Montreal just outplayed Calgary and really made Riddick look like a fool in nets because I don't think Riddick looked good at all. But the second game was a very different hockey game from the first game.
Well, the first game was a pretty. The Canadians controlled the play, 5-on-5. They controlled it. They took advantage of their power play time. They took advantage of their shorthanded time with their fifth shorthanded goal, and Calgary looked flat. And I after that game, I warned on Twitter that Calgary's had a team meeting, players only, which normally goes one of two ways. Either the team continues playing like crap and they trade away half the team, or they come back and they play like madmen. And I expected the latter. So, and they came out and they played hard. Calgary was a very different hockey team in the second game. However, the Canadians still controlled a lot of the play. The difference being they weren't shooting on Riddick. They were shooting on Markstrom. And I think Markstrom was the difference in this game. Jake Allen played extremely well. He made a lot of good saves. So no one can fault him for anything. He doesn't score goals. He stops them. He let in one goal in 32 shots. One. So he did his job. I don't think the forward group did enough to get a goal. Like, they got a lot of good shots off. They got shots in the slot. But when Anderson left, the entire feel of the lines changed because Julian had to do the line blender. What do you think, Treg?
Yeah. The first, I'm going to say period and a half, Calgary was kind of controlling the play, but Montreal kind of did a pushback. It wasn't more of a pushback. I think it was more of a Calgary had the 1-goal lead. So they just kind of, all right, we're going to just clog the neutral zone and they're going to have to fight their way in. Montreal had a lot of shots, but their shot selection was a lot of belly pads, a lot of side of the net. Not taken away from Markstrom because he made some big saves on some shots, especially on Tatar and a couple on Gallagher. But again, the rebounds were there, and the Calgary defense Montreal could not control a rebound because Calgary's defense was just right on it. And that was the difference from the game before. The game before, Montreal used their speed and size to get behind the Calgary players. And I mean, and in this game here, they had a few chances. They had a couple 3-on-1s that just didn't go their way, but Calgary just didn't give them that chance. It was almost like they played a 1-3-1 kind of defense, and Montreal just couldn't get behind anyone to let their speed out. And when Anderson went, you're absolutely right. The lines got juggled up. Toffoli, I think, was playing with Suzuki and Drouin. And not that they played bad, but he just doesn't play the same style that Anderson plays. So there was some good points. Allen, I think, was excellent. I mean, you can't complain about a 1-0 loss. He stopped he stopped everything he could stop. And the Gaudreau's goal, Price wouldn't have stopped that goal. So
no, that was a nice goal.
It was just, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Well, maybe have the penalty kill. I don't know. Play a little bit more aggressive.
I thought the penalty kill was good.
It was a bounce, though.
Yeah.
Right? It was a bounce. It was a bounce, and the face-off was in that part of the zone. Right? It was a shit bounce, and all of a sudden you've got a guy that's a natural goal scorer that's wide open. Like, as Strag said, Price probably wouldn't have stopped that. Most goalies in the league probably wouldn't have either, right? So
that's true.
Even Gary Galley said pucks have a way of finding good players, and that was, even if Gary Galley says that was a lucky bounce, it had to be a lucky bounce because we already talked about him. But anyway,
no, the Canadians were unable to create any speed in transition. You're right. Calgary was playing a trap style game. They set up a left wing lock, funneled the Habs into one side of the ice, and then just locked that down. Their transition game was slowed. which means their zone entries couldn't be as controlled as they want it to be. They're playing the chip and chase at that point. And with their transition game slowed down, they don't have the speed entering the zone to really attack the defender. So the defender has more time to get the puck out, and off it goes. So Calgary adjusted properly.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get into this now, but there were some questionable calls in that game.
A ton.
And it kind of was both ways, or soft calls both ways. I don't think the reffing was as good in this game as it was the game before. But the most predominant non-call, well, actually there was a call made, but not to the right person, was the hit on Kotkaniemi. And
oh, you mean the one that Calgary tweeted out, Dube strong arm, and then they deleted it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know what, if he didn't push up, or I don't think he left his skates, but he certainly rose up on his skates. I don't know. That's just all around. I think that was a worse hit than the Armia hit. I think it was all to the head. His whole forearm hit Kotkaniemi right in the face. If that's not a hit to the head, I don't know what is. I know player safety says 50% of the contact has to be on the head. I'm pretty sure that's more than 50%.
Like, do they do like a calculus there? Do they
no
break
idea.
down the video and say, oh, okay, well, his size of a head is this. 45% of the head was hit, not a call.
George Peros, I don't look at him as being someone who's good at math, so I have no idea how they do it. But it was a dirty hit. It was an intentional hit. He intentionally meant to hit him where he hit him. And the only thing, Cassie Pascal said it best. The only thing he got going for him is that he has no priors.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. I don't expect anything to happen out of it just because I have no faith in the player safety, but we'll see. And just so everyone knows, I would say the same thing if a Montreal player did that to a Calgary player, because that type of hit is just not something we need in the league anymore. It's not 1985 anymore.
So I'm just trying to find, so where's
I don't know, Matt, what did you think of it?
the Kotkaniemi, after the game, Kotkaniemi said, I don't really care. That's things that happened in the game, when he was asked about the non-calls. And my response to that is, Kotkaniemi's never going to say a ref missed a call again. He'll probably get suspended.
You know what? That shows maturity in the kid too, though. He yelled at the ref during the game. He got the penalty. And since then, he's like, all right, I see how this league's going. I'll just let my coach and someone like that deal with the.
Well, according to Holtby, he didn't yell at the referee. All he said was, hey, ref, you missed a call. Bam, 2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, ref's got to have thicker skin than that. I've reffed enough lacrosse games and stuff like that to know people are going to say shit.
So he gets a 2 minute for saying, hey, ref, you missed a call. And then he's asked after a game, what did you think of that non-call about the high hit you took? He's not going to say, oh, that guy's a douche. No, he's going to, I don't know, blah, blah. Canned response, hockey player.
And the funny thing about it is Sherratt went after him, grabbed him by the head, and they never blew the play down. Like, Kotkaniemi's on the ice.
Yep. Everyone stopped playing, too. Everyone was just like, yep, that's a penalty. And everyone was going to start grabbing a partner. And then the refs were like, play on. And everyone was like,
play the whistle.
Okay. Right. So
they're like, go ahead, guys, keep playing. We're good. I'm just counting this money here from your owner.
And then Allen covers the puck. And then a scrum ensues and Weber gets a penalty.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I don't even know what Weber did. He didn't do anything different than anyone else in that scrum, but he said,
hey, ref, you missed a call.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, I mean, I don't like blaming the ref. I'm not a big one to sit there and blame the refs for shit, but stuff like that gotta.
So I got into this after the Armia hit, and I'm going to do it again. If you're not going to call stuff that players all see as borderline, you don't even give a 2 minute call. Like you could have given a 2 minute call on that, and it would have calmed shit down. If you're not going to call that, players are going to police themselves. Things are going to get out of hand.
And
The last time it was
this is-
just Edmondson and Myers stepping up and fighting,
Myers.
and that's enough. But in a case like this, where it's going to simmer for about a week or two because they don't play the Calgary Flames again for a little while, and this is going to be in their back pocket, shit's going to get a little bit chippy. Which,
especially since Dube's not really a fighter, so he's not going to accept the challenge.
No. And Kotkaniemi might be the one going after him. You know, the retribution
Which
amongst
he
players.
can do. We've seen it before.
Yeah. So it's stuff like this. So it's going to escalate. And Brian Wild made a point on that. He said, this is in the league's best interest. Not making these calls creates the animosity, which creates this heightened level of aggression, which makes people want to watch more, which helps their bottom line. So where's the incentive to improve the level of officiating or make any rule changes? It perpetuates itself. So the players are going to police themselves.
When Connor McDavid misses the rest of the season due to a head injury, that's when they'll sit down and say, one of our star players just went out with a head injury from
it's going to
questionable
happen.
hit that wasn't called. That's when they're going to step in, or an Austin Matthews, or one of the big star players of the league that's a face of the game, Ovechkin, Crosby, you name them. One of those players gets a serious injury due to a hit like this. That's when they'll step in and say, all right, we have to do something about this.
Well, that's what happened.
We know that the NHL wants to see more goal scoring, and they've made changes to goalie equipment and to pants and to this and to this and to this to increase it. And now we've seen, especially early on in the season, increased amount of penalty calls, a lot of time on the power play. And it's very frustrating to watch as a fan because you see a hit like the one that we saw in Kotkaniemi that went uncalled, and Weber gets a penalty for roughing in the ensuing scrum when you've got a guy that's slow to the bench, bleeding from the nose, etc. Yet you watch the rest of the game, and there was some really, really weak calls. So if you're going to call the weak stuff, you've got to call the very apparent penalties. If not, it's either you let them play to the level that you just didn't call and leave your whistle, or you start calling everything, which is going to slow the game down even more. And it's going to get to the point where it's going to be like, you may as well just play shorthanded all fucking season, because that's the way it's been so far. And it's not just the Canadians. I've seen it, especially throughout the North Division. There's been a lot of calls. It was like that the Edmonton Toronto game the other night, and it's been like that kind of throughout the North Division so far this season.
It happens a lot in Leaf games when they're down a couple of goals. They tend to get a lot of power play.
Well, that's true, but won't get into that.
I'm not saying it's planned, but
yeah, but it's frustrating to watch.
Very coincidental,
right? Because you see a guy, yes, the penalty against Kulak to start the game, it was a penalty. But, a little one hand on the back and Buddy just goes flipping and flying. And then Kotkaniemi takes, 2 forearms to the face, play on. It's,
no roughing call on that.
Nothing, right? So
Drouin got a tripping penalty because the guy actually he was just holding his stick and the guy skated.
He went in his lane.
He
just literally skated across him. And that was it.
And tripped over his stick. And you could see Drouin, as he's skating in, just put his hand out like this going, I'm just skating. I'm not doing anything.
Skated by me.
And he falls and he gets a 2-minute penalty.
It's Drouin's fault.
Yeah.
It's his fault, as they would say on another podcast.
But as you said, Blaine, the teams don't play each other for another little while. There is going to be that built up pressure to respond, and thankfully Kotkaniemi's okay. But you know what? For me, during the series, especially yesterday, you mentioned the players only meeting and everything, and you saw some guys playing with a little bit more snarl. But I'm not even kind of snarl. It was kind of just like the little bitch moves, Like the whole thing with
Kachucks.
Backlund. Well, the
The
thing with
Kachucking.
Backlund coming in with his head multiple times, and our good buddy Gary Galley saying, "Oh, let's just leverage on the faceoff." I'm like, come on,
That's
buddy.
it. That's illegal leverage.
Right? If you're headbutting a guy with your helmet, he did it to Evans. He did it with Gallagher, and Gallagher challenged him, and he skated away, obviously. And the little things after the whistle, like Romanov getting hit in the face and getting a penalty for it.
Yeah. That's his fault for being there when the fist went right into his face.
Yeah, absolutely.
His fault.
But you saw it was just the little things like that I didn't like. And these are the things that went uncalled. And this is stuff the players are going to remember. And I've got a tweet here from Habs Links, and it's pretty funny about Lucic. And the only reason I saw it was Dale Weiss actually commented on it, and I thought it was kind of funny. So he said, Milan Lucic is like that bully that everyone in your school was afraid of growing up, but now he's 40 and works at the gas station. So I laughed pretty good at that. So shout out to Habs Links for that. But it's true. It's he's not a guy that's going to go after. He beaks a lot. He talks a lot. We saw it in the first game against Calgary that Canadians are up. It was 4-1 at that point, and Tkachuk takes a run at Evans and barely misses him. And in the ensuing play, Anderson takes a little bit of a run at Valimaki, and Lucic is like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't go at one of our young guys." It's like, well, look what you just did.
Yeah, but see,
and I noticed since. I was just going to say, I noticed since Sherratt put his fist into Tkachuk's face, the game when Tkachuk was very quiet this game.
He was very quiet. Other than interfering with Drew a couple times, but other than that.
Oh, well, that wasn't interference though, because
just
I don't know why.
But this is the point I was making earlier. The guys are going to start stepping up and dealing with it themselves. What we saw back in 2010 when Crosby was having his concussion issues, the league stepped in. You mentioned the whole star power thing. If a star gets hurt, they're going to be concerned. Crosby was having concussion issues back in 2010, so they decided to crack down on a lot of these things. And for a couple of years, they did. And yeah, it did take away a lot from the game because they kind of overdid it. Excuse me. So they went past where they needed to go for these rule changes, and it took away from the aggressive style of the game. Then they kind of eased back, so the pendulum has swung all the way back to where it was before all this happened. So they spent a decade trying to improve the game and did sweet nothing.
Well, now it's not about the physicality. It's a lot of the calls now are stick related, and we brought this up on another show with the whole Methot thing and his finger kind of dangling down and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I've always been a fan of the physical aspect of hockey, and there is a place for it. But going back to the whole Kotkaniemi hit, or even the Armia hit, if they're not going to call and they're not going to protect the players from penalties or situations that should be suspendable or at least thrown in the box, then as you said, the players are going to police themselves, and that's when you're going to see the next level. That's when you're going to see the blind sides. That's when you're going to see the stage fights. That's when you're going to see the rough shit after the whistle, or a player taking liberty on another player that should never be in that situation. You're going to see a much bigger, much heavier, much more aggressive player going after one of the stars or going after one of the young guys or something like that. Yeah. Someone that should never be in that situation, and the teams are going to have to police themselves. And you know what? Does it create must-watch TV, as you said? Absolutely. People are going to watch it, but that's the stuff that they're trying to get out of the game. And if they continue down that road, you're going to see one of these star players get injured, and the league's going to be like, whoa, like pump the brakes, you guys. You can't do that to this player. And it's like, well, you shouldn't be able to do that to any player. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to do that to any player. Yeah.
I mean, it's like you say, people are going to watch for all these. Oh, there's going to be a fight. These guys are going to go do it, and then all of a sudden, Sidney Crosby, say, gets run into the friggin' stanchion, a la Chara Patrick. Pittsburgh fans they're all going to be like, well, this is a joke, right?
Well, for me, the thing that I'm really tired of seeing, and they even talked about it during the Montreal Calgary series, was the whole thing with Muzzin. And this thing is going to be on replay right up to the point they
puck
play
flip
again.
bullshit.
Yeah, and they're going to play that right up to the point that they play again. If something happens, whoop-de-doo, but at least we don't need to see it every couple minutes. And like Brian Burke even said, like, why are we talking about this? Like, let's talk about something that matters.
Yeah.
Well, he flipped the puck. Big freaking deal. Like,
at the end of the game,
he jumped on your goalie's head.
Yeah.
He jumped on your goalie's head, and the only thing you're going to do at the end of a game is flip a puck at the guy.
But it made him really angry. He was super angry.
But what message was he sending? Basically, he's telling him, like, I'm not really going to do anything.
Super angry. So it's totally cool.
Yeah,
that's okay. Campbell's on IR now.
Yeah. For a leg injury, even though he got his head jumped on.
Leg bone's connected to the head bone.
Yeah. So you brought up.
But I mean, it's like in the Montreal game, Kachuk got in Price's face and Sherratt put a fist in his face.
Yeah.
Over.
And then he wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, but the overall,
maybe flipped the puck. I don't know.
So the game is getting super fast. The players are doing this basically at sprint speeds, and they're following a plan. They're not reading, reacting as they used to do. Now it's just sprint, go, sprint. So people are going to run into each other. Things are going to happen. People are going to get hurt from that. So I can see why the league maybe doesn't mind them wanting to slow it down, get back to the more with more hits and stuff. And I like that. I like a good physical game, but not the high hits. Keep the arms down. Dube's hit he didn't have a lot of time to change his direction or read what was happening. Like it was fast. So I'm not calling for Dube to be given any extra fines or suspension. None of that. To me, that was just a 2-minute penalty because he got his arms up and got his fist in his face when he was coming in to hit him.
Yeah, but even if Kotkaniemi hadn't turned around, that would have been like 2 to either the back of the head or 2 to the back, and that would have been a hit from behind anyway. Not into the boards, but either way, there should have been a penalty.
Yeah, like a 2. There should have been a 2.
At least. At least.
Just for the arms up, not because they hit, just because he had his arms up. If he would have kept his arms down and his shoulder down and hit him, I think that would have been a perfectly clean hit, and it would have been perfectly fine.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm not trying to get the physicality out of hockey. I love it. It's fantastic to see, and there's some players that have really made their career off of it. It's just you can't call one thing and then not call another.
Now, back to the series itself. Is there anything that we can say that there's some lessons learned in this 2-game set?
For me, it would be, pump the brakes a little bit, Habs Twitter and Facebook and everything like that. Like, it's been one game. I put the Woosah thing out there last night. Like, calm down. We're not going to trade the team. We're not going to fire the GM. We're not going to fire the coach, etc. You had Josh Anderson was taken out of the game, which we'll get into. And you ran into a hot goalie, right? The Flames were blocking everything, and Weber was doing everything he could to get pucks in. He hit the crossbar. He broke a skate. He probably broke some bones. Like he did everything he could. And then the team were getting their chances. They just couldn't get one past Markstrom. And it is what it is. It's one loss. Calm down. We've seen some good things out of this team, and for me, the bright shining point in this is Terry Price was given a night off. Allen looked really good. He gave them a chance to win. They didn't. You move on. We'll see you on Monday.
The takeaway I would take with this is you have to look at hockey and the games as like baseball series. So if you're going to play 3 2-3 game series against the other teams, if you come away with more wins than the other team in that series and keep winning series, not necessarily games, you'll end up on top. So if you go into a 3-game series and lose a game or lose a game in overtime, even hockey has that kind of a good mystique. If you get the 3 points and 3 games out of that series, you're going to be ahead at the end of the season. That's how you have to start looking at hockey this year, as if you're a baseball fan, as in how baseball goes. You have a 4-game series. As long as you win 2 or 3 of them, you're okay. You don't have to win them all. Another thing I'll take away is the power play starting to get predictable like it was last year. I noticed that in the last 2 games against Calgary. It's still, especially that top line, you can tell that everyone wants to give the puck to Shea Weber for a shot. Petrie lost the puck a couple times trying to get the puck over to Shea Weber. I don't think Shea Weber should be on the top power play anymore. I think he should be on the secondary power play. That's my opinion. And they got to they're starting to do that whole, let's skate up to the blue line and pass the puck back so that you can try again to get over the blue line. If you're going to do that, you might as well just dump it in and take your chances.
We talked about that in other shows. I hate that drop pass crap.
That's my takeaway. I think the power play is getting, even though it's 8th, last night it was 8th in the league going into last night's game. It's probably less now. It's getting very predictable, and you could tell when that top power play unit out, everyone was just trying to get the puck to Weber for the big shot, and because everyone just stands there. Everyone stands in their spot, and Weber just goes up and down from the blue line to the hash mark, and everyone just, there's no movement anywhere else. So watching that, you're like, oh, okay, well, the puck's going to him. And that's the way Calgary played it. And that's why, I mean, he did hit the post. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking away from Weber. Weber has that shot and it's convenient. I just think him on the top power play takes away because everyone just wants to get the puck to him.
All right. So for me, I'm going to agree that the power play wasn't very good, that first wave, but I'm not going to blame it on Weber. And I don't think Weber should be taken off of it. What they need to do is stop deferring to Weber all the time. You're right. It's telegraphed. It's obvious. But removing him from the first wave doesn't take away the problem. The problem's still going to be on the second wave if he's down there. The team, whenever he's on the power play, defers to him. He should be one of the weapons. If the lane is open, awesome. If not, Petrie should either be taking a shot himself for a tip or to pass down to the other side where Drouin would be or Suzuki so that they can set up a play from the half wall. That should not be the Weber slap shot, that one-timer should be one of the weapons. If you move him down to the second wave, it becomes a problem there too, because right now the second wave is the reason why the power play is so effective. The reason why they're up there. The first wave isn't doing the heavy lifting in this on this power play unit. It's the second wave, the one with the different look, the one that's using the 1-3-1 with the man in front of the net. Everyone is a threat to shoot or make a play, and it's unpredictable. So that's the wave that's carrying the power play right now. They're not doing the skate up to the blue line, come to a complete stop, and then throw it back to a guy flying in from the blue line. They're carrying it in. They're doing controlled zone entries. That's successful. The first wave needs to follow suit.
I find that when Weber's on the power play, it opens up the slot, and it's something that they just don't see. Every now and then you'll see a pass go to the slot, and you might get a chance, or you might get a good scoring chance out of it. But as Treg said, they usually just defer to Weber and his huge shot and everything, which is a fantastic weapon to have. But you need to have a little bit more weapons in your arsenal.
Can't be predictable. And you're right, Treg. That's what they've been doing the last little while. For me, the lessons learned on this 2-game set is that the Canadians, I think they kind of bought their own hype a little bit and thought that they could just score from anywhere. They've got to be more aggressive when they're in the offensive zone. Basically everywhere around the ice. and not by throwing more hits or, slashing the guy, but attacking the puck. The puck is there. Go for that puck. And you got to win those battles. They've been winning a lot of those 50-50 battles, but when a team starts to push back, I find that the way Calgary did anyway, that the Canadians, they ease off a little bit. Now, granted, there were some changes in the lineup because of unforeseen circumstances. We're going to get into that here in a minute. It's make the adjustments you need, but keep that battle level there. I think losing a game after a good run like they've had will be beneficial. Now they've got a game. They got a set coming up against Vancouver, who they've had some success with. Vancouver's going to come in and they're going to be motivated to avenge their losses. And Treg again was right. You have to face these baseball series as it's a 2-game set. I need to get 3 points. If I get 3 points in a 2-game set, that's a win. Sure, you lost in OT. Who gives a crap? You got 3 points because it's all about the standings at the end. So, on that, I think
Blaine just say I was right twice.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Mark that on the calendar.
You know what else you need to mark on the calendar? Valentine's Day. And Valentine's Day is coming upon us, guys. Make sure you're ready for whatever the night may take you. Our friends at Manscaped, the global leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming, are here to tell you that you need to use the best tools for the job so you can be ready for anything on that special day. 2 million men are already trusting Manscaped's products to groom. Make sure you're one of them. Your girl can think of what to get you this year. Tell her to get the gift that's for you and for her. The best way to get started is with the Manscaped. Oh, I lost my spot. Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0. Full of the best products to keep you looking, smelling, and feeling nice. The Perfect Package 3.0 is led by their revolutionary 3rd-generation lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, which has advanced skin-safe technology and features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. It's also waterproof, which prevents a mess on the bathroom floor and in the sink, especially when it's time for Cupid to shoot his arrow. And let's be real, we've smelled the worst down there before. That's why I am thankful for their Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver. These products keep our boys from sweating, smelling, and sticking. And these products smell good. Their manly scent is attractive and will help set the mood, if you know what I mean. The Perfect Package 3.0 will also come with a pair of Manscaped boxers that'll keep your junk feeling fresh all day. It's time to upgrade those overused pair of boxers to Manscaped's high-performance anti-chafing boxers. Easily the comfiest boxers I've ever had. And complete your grooming game with the refined cologne signature scent by Manscaped, with the same signature scent that's in all of Manscaped's formulas. This cologne is the perfect complement to this collection. This is the perfect package for your perfect package. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code unfiltered20 at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. Remember, 20% off and free shipping with the code unfiltered20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code unfiltered20. Happy Valentine's Day from Manscaped. Aw, isn't that nice?
Nice. Tina's birthday is a week before Valentine's Day, so I take a day in the middle and call it Birthtime Day. And apparently that's wrong. So
my birthday is a week before Valentine's Day.
yeah, Tina's is the 7th.
Well, there we go. Happy birthday to us.
Yeah, Tina's is the 7th and Valentine's is the 14th. So I'm like, well, she doesn't want me to spend a lot of money. So I gave her own special day, like say around the 10th or 11th, called Birthtime Day. And, we go out. And apparently, for years, this has been pissing her off. So,
There's so many things.
What do you think,
Um,
ladies that listen to the show? Do you think birth time day is the wrong thing to do? Do you think I should do both? Or I don't. I see the logic in the birth time day. So.
Combining the two holidays into one. Yeah.
And she has her own special day, all hers, just hers.
Maybe they'll think that she deserves the 2 days just for her. Which brings me to my point on Valentine's Day. Why is it just for her? What about us? Aren't we as men romantic and deserved romance as well?
I just take advantage of all the chocolates that go on sale the day afterwards, right? So
my wife doesn't like Valentine's Day, and which is helpful because then I save money on shit because I buy her flowers afterwards. I'm like, here you go.
There you go.
Because they're all half off.
My wife loves Valentine's Day, except she gets birth time day, so she gets a bigger day just for her.
Bigger day, yeah. All right, so moving back onto the topics of the show. Josh Anderson left the game, went down the hall, and everyone was wondering what kind of injury did he have, because nobody saw anything on the ice. Turns out he left for having flu-like symptoms. So he is tested negative for COVID right now. And he is at home resting and dealing with this. So they're probably going to have to test him again here tomorrow, I would think.
Eric Engels tweeted that it would be today.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
So 2 negative tests. We would be pretty safe to say that he doesn't have it. What may be related, but we're not sure, is that Laval has canceled their practices today for precautionary reasons. And it does seem like it's a COVID protocol precaution. So looks like COVID's come home to roost. Hopefully, just precautionary.
I just think I think they're just going to keep Anderson away from the team until he's got that second negative test.
Yeah.
And then, maybe we won't see him at the morning skate on Monday or something like that. But I can see him at least being a game time decision, unless it's like actual flu and not COVID, because apparently, the flu's making a comeback. Yeah. Right. So
it is that time of year.
Yeah.
If they practice today, I doubt he'll be at the practice today.
No.
If he has a negative COVID test today, he should be at the morning skate on Monday. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be, unless he still has the flu. This would be around the time Montreal normally gets the flu in the regular season. I think it's just before Christmas that they would, like around the 10-15 game mark. If you look at traditional hockey seasons, that's when you see a couple guys out with the flu. So, I mean, hopefully it's the flu. It looks like it's just the flu. I mean, there was a rumor that his groin was bothering him, and that's why he left when he first left. I might have tweeted that because I heard it from someone else. But it's Jack Todd made a tweet that I thought was kind of funny. He goes, "It's hard to believe in the midst of a pandemic, people are happy that a guy has the flu and he's not injured."
True,
yeah,
though.
It's true. It's true. Like, as long as it's the flu and not COVID, then people are going to be happy. Because if it's COVID, then you might as well say he's injured because he's out for 2 weeks. So,
yeah.
But
now the one thing that concerns me more is Laval. So as we're recording, it's Sunday morning, and the news came out this morning that Laval had to. They canceled their practice for precautionary reasons. I'm just looking it up now again.
But you would think Laval too has players coming from all over the place, just coming into the training camp. What, last week did they start their training camp? I think.
Yeah,
for Laval.
Yeah.
So,
but they were all in isolation. The ones that so they've been following the protocols. But yeah, there's nothing new that has come out about that since it was announced a couple hours ago. So for now, we don't know. We just don't know if there may be, if nobody ends up being testing positive, then great. But maybe it's related to the Josh Anderson thing. I don't know, it would seem odd because each group has its own bubble. They have their own rooms at the Bell Center. They have their own, because Laval's playing at the Bell Center this year. So they have their own spaces in the training facilities. They have their own spaces in the Bell Center. The media has theirs. So the opposing NHL teams have a bubble. Opposing AHL teams will have a bubble. And yeah, I'm not. There's not
We're
a
all
lot to it.
speculating just now. We're
Yeah.
just speculating.
We're just pulling stuff out of our butts at this point because the only word that we have officially is that Laval has canceled today's scrimmage. That's it. So hopefully everything turns out okay and we don't have to worry about too much. I don't want to go in too deep on this because we're trying to get probably one of our next episodes is going to be about the minor league teams. So we'll see what we can pull off there. But yeah, that's what I got. Treg, you got something?
Not about Laval, but we can bring up the rumors of Mete wanting to
Yes,
trade.
we can.
So his agent has informed the media that Mete wants to play, and they don't see him fitting into the team this year, and he wants out. Now, Bergevin has come out and sent texts out to some media people saying that he's not shopping, he's not trading Mete, and there's been no discussion with his agent over a trade. As we all know, agents like to play media games, so he might not have went to Bergevin to say he wanted to trade. He might have went to the media first. We don't know the situation. But reputable sources like Pierre Lebrun, Rene Lavoie, they're the ones that came out and said Mete's requested a trade. His agent said this, and they're also the ones that came out and said that they were texted by Bergevin that he knows nothing about a trade and there's no trade and what going. As we all know, I'm one of the biggest Mete fans in Habs history. But I will say this about Mete. I slag on him a lot. I will say about this. He needs to play. And right now he's not playing. He wants to play. They're not going to put him on down to Laval because they're not going to put him on waivers because they will lose him. Mete does have value. He can skate really well. He's good at entering the zone with the puck, and that's pretty much it. But there's value to him. There's a lot of teams out there that could use defensive help, especially in the Canadian division. Winnipeg and Vancouver are the first two teams that come to mind. So maybe there's a trade there. It all depends. I mean, it's all in Bergevin's hands right now. Mete's a free agent at the end of the year. I believe he's a UFA at the end of the year. I could be wrong. No, he's an RFA at the end of the year. Yeah. So Bergevin kind of has control over this situation, really. So it'll be up to him. One of my Twitter followers, Robert Louie, he's afraid that the depth will lose depth on defense if we lose Mete. Yes, but I think Ouellette could fill in as that 7th D guy unless there's a major injury.
Cale Fleury.
I don't know how Brook or the Swedish guy are doing down there. I don't think they're
Olofsson. No.
Olofsson and what's his face?
Otto Leskinen would be a good one.
Leskinen. He'd be an all right one because he has some experience at a pro level. Are they as good as Mete? I think Fleury is in a different way. I think Ouellette kind of is in a bit more to what the system the Montreal Canadiens are playing now with that zone, which they always play, but it's more of a physical zone defense than
sure.
So if it's going to happen, I'd rather it happen sooner than later because it's something, a cloud that comes over the team and you just don't want it. So,
well, Mete's agent came out and told Pierre Lebrun there isn't opportunity to get in the lineup. It's best for both the player and the team that he move on. Now, Kulak had a tough game last night. I mean, he just did. He had a hard time. That's your path in. You you have a player who has a tough game. Maybe he gets taken out. You get in. If you're going to be moping and not working hard in practice, the coach won't put you in. So you got to work your tail off in practice, do the little extras, the extra skates and all that other crap. Show that you're ready and willing. And then when someone has a tough game, you go in. That's the way in. But
I think this is going to put pressure on the team to have him in the lineup either maybe on Monday.
Maybe.
But seeing that it's a back-to-back, I'd be surprised if we didn't see him in one of those games.
Exactly. So Kulak had a tough game. They have a back-to-back coming up. Maybe they put Mete in for the first game and they let Kulak sit and, get his bearings again. It's stuff like that. Like Romanov as a rookie, they weren't expecting him to be as good as he has been. They were probably expecting to rotate Mete in sooner, but Romanov's been solid on that pairing. So that kind of closed off one of the ways that Mete can get in. Now, Bergevin flat out said, no one's told me about a trade demand, and no, we're not trading him. Like, he was emphatic. So what kind of trade value does he have, for one? And two, what are the needs for the Canadians? So I can't imagine Mete's trade value being extremely high.
Third pick.
Maybe a third round pick. Maybe
I think
a
his
second
value,
on a desperate team.
I think his values went down from last year, especially with his play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was only, through 10 games, he was only averaging just over 12 minutes a game. And a guy like Willette jumped over him, was playing more and playing a hell of a lot better. And he wasn't playing playoff hockey whatsoever. He was just playing he just seemed like he was just out there floating, and he was doing more. He wasn't doing much good when he was on the ice.
That's more recency bias, though. So, but overall, throughout his career, he's been a guy who.
But you brought it up yourself, and you said that that his agent said that there's no
opportunity.
Opportunity. Yeah, there's no path for him to get in the lineup right now, but that's on the player.
Yep.
If you've got you're a young player, you're 21 years old, you got 171 games of NHL experience. Were you thrusted into that position maybe a little bit too quick? Absolutely. However, 171 games of NHL experience, and then you've got the shiny new rookie in Romanov, and as you said, we're looking to see if they were going to be cycling in and out, but you can't overplay that player, or you can't overplay somebody like Kulak or Edmonston or whoever. You haven't earned your spot in the lineup. You have to do the extra shit at practice. You have to show the coaching staff that you're ready to jump in, do the extras, so you're going to be in the lineup full time. Like, I'm not going to say you should be, but your stats show that you should be a full-time NHLer right now, but your play, obviously on the ice and off the ice, hasn't been to that level that you should be in the lineup.
But for his value right now, even though he didn't really do much in the playoffs, he's still, like you mentioned, a 21-year-old. He still has 170 some odd games experience. He has played on top pairings. He has played on the power play. He has shown that he's good at zone entries. So there's value to that. But, and here's another thing. He's on a 1-year deal, an RFA, on a super cheap contract. So that, for a lot of teams that are up against the cap, that has some value.
That could raise the value.
It could, but how much? Not by much.
You also got to look at his career too. Is he was thrusted into the top pairing. He wasn't put there because he outplayed anybody else. He was put there because they really had no one else to put there. And since then, he's really dropped in the depth chart behind everybody.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't, and I mean, and again, like I slag Mete a lot, but Mete has his qualities. He's good. He's good with the puck. He can skate. He's a good passer. He can get the zone entries in. He's whatever. The problem is he doesn't create offense, and positionally defensively, he's good. He can positionally defend very well. He just can't do anything else. He can't clear the net. He can't win puck battles along the boards. He's an analytical darling because of all the stuff he does with the puck. The problem is the eye test shows that he's a weak defender. And I don't think, I mean, I think a third's good for him. I don't think that's a bad, whatever. If a team's desperate, maybe a late second, maybe.
It would have to be a Canadian team because they don't want to have the quarantine going on.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
basically, Mete is a poor man's version of Vince Dunn out of the Blues. Now, Vince Dunn is actually on the trade block as well. So who would you rather have, Vince Dunn or the poor man's Vince Dunn? And
where does Vince Dunn fit in Montreal, though?
No. I'm not talking about Montreal. I'm talking about
You're
the
just
rest
talking
of the league.
about players that are on the pipe, that are on the block. Yeah.
So you have two players who are similar. One is Vince Dunn and one is a poor man's Vince Dunn. And the rest of the league is going, well, that's a tough choice. I'll go for Vince Dunn. But his value is not very high either. So you're not going to be trading him for value. If you're moving him, you're going to lose out. And here's why. You're losing a player off your roster for that depth. That is what you're going to be relying on. So what do you bring back in? So this is where the Canadians' needs come into play. You mentioned Ouellet, Leskinen. There's options that they can have as a seventh D man that can be on the roster. And that's fine. I don't think any of those choices would be terrible for, one game here or there to kind of fill in. But if there's injuries, then Mete holds a higher value than those players. So you'd rather keep Mete. What other needs do the Canadians have? Like, I know people were joking because Bennett from Calgary demanded a trade as well. And they said, well, I'll just trade Mete for Bennett. But that doesn't help Montreal. We don't need a Bennett.
Also making like $2.5 million. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Montreal really has a significant need right now.
Well, they've got two things that they would need. If they move Mete, they need another seventh D-man. So you're just trading a seventh D-man for a seventh D-man. And another need would be
which is useless.
A star player. And Mete is not going to bring in a star player. So you're kind of behind the eight ball there, Vic.
Right now, I just,
so what about Mete, Danault?
Yeah, and Ryder, yeah.
What about Mete, Danault, and for Crosby? That's perfect.
I lack Ryder in a second.
Yeah. So for me on this is just since they lost Juleson for nothing, they can't lose Mete for nothing.
Exactly.
And I personally wouldn't want to see a draft pick. If it happens, it happens. It is what it is. But Canadians already have an abundance of draft picks. They've got a lot of guys in their system. And I find it ironic that the first game that the Canadians lose, all of a sudden somebody comes out and says, Mete wants out. So it just kind of seemed like
said before the game was over. So.
Yeah, that was during the game.
That was said
right, but still, it just kind of was ironic that that's the way that it happened. But I can see, as I said, Mete jumping in the lineup, one of the Vancouver games, and it's the ball's in his court right now. Like his play either has to get better and he has to demonstrate that he can be a regular in this lineup, or he's going to be a guy that's going to be on the outside looking in, and he might end up somewhere else. But right now, Bergevin's got control of this player, and he's going to use him either as his own rental player and move him at some other point, or he's just going to be on the outside looking in. Right now, Mete is getting pressure on both sides because you've got players that are in the lineup that have pushed him out, and then you've got depth in the Canadian system that is also going to push him out. You've got guys that are coming up through the system like Harris, and you've got Struble, you've got Norlinder, you've got et cetera, that are working their way up the system. And Mete, with his play right now, should not be in the lineup on a full-time basis. But I would not be surprised to see him on Monday.
He's got to earn his way onto the lineup. I mean,
yes, 100%.
And the thing with Kulak is he's working very well with Romanov. Like Kulak has been almost a perfect partner for Romanov, teaching him the game. And I mean, I don't think Kulak had a terrible game last night, but he didn't have a great game. I don't think Romanov had a great game last night either.
The thing with Kulak is just the errors that were made were significant. And it was the fact that, like, yes, it was a weak call, but it led to a goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's going to look at. And it was the winning goal. So more people are going to look at that.
Maybe that opens the door for Mete to play one of the two games against Vancouver.
And there's no reason why he couldn't. There's no reason why Kulak or Romanov, for that matter, can't sit for a game in a back-to-back. There really isn't. The only thing with Romanov is it might be a mind thing where he's like, well, why am I sitting? I don't think I really had a...
There's no reason to sit Romanov. He's actually played extremely well. Even that stupid penalty where he took a punch in the face and got penalized for it.
Yeah.
Even in that, he looked good. You know, his hair flying back, it looked great. Well,
he's, you know what? There's no reason to take him out of the lineup right now.
None.
Yeah, like, why would you? Right.
So that leaves Bergevin in a position where a player wants out, but the hell is he going to do with it? He's not It's not like the normal years where they could just trade him away and say, yeah, you know, we're going to do you a solid. We'll move you someplace where you can get some playing time. Thanks for all you've done. Here you go. In a year like this, there's quarantines that have to be dealt with. They can't just bring people in. So maybe this is going to be a long play. If they were to just trade him away for a pick, which I think is useless considering they got 14 picks this year. And we're not even sure there's a draft that's going to happen. So they might have to, there's some stuff going on in the background. That's another show. So let's say, so they got 14 picks this year and 10 the following year. You get another pick. Whoop-de-doo. Like what's that going to do for you right now? The team wants to win now. They want to make a push. They want to do well in the playoffs. So they need bodies. And on the depth chart, he's kind of that he's a tweener, because you've got the guys down in the AHL right now who could come in and just hang out as a seventh man. But if there's an actual injury, Mete's way better than they are. So what do you do? If you want to move him out, just to move him out to do him a solid, well, you got to bring someone in. And just looking at who's available as a free agent right now on defense, there's guys like Cody Goluboff, played for Columbus, Jeremy Roy, Ryan Manta, and Mirko Mueller. I think Mueller would be probably the best level comparison. Like he's at the same kind of level as Mete. So if they wanted to get rid of Mete, they could sign this Mueller guy, bring him in, but then he'd have to do his 14-day quarantine and go through all the testing. So you'd be without that depth for a couple of weeks. So either you get something of value that helps your roster by moving Mete, or you suffer the 2 weeks without that option by moving Mete out for just futures.
It's almost like he has to find someone in the Canadian division where they have a defenseman that wants to get moved out as well.
The Canadian division is kind of handcuffed in those moves. Like, look at the trade deadline. You got the trade deadline in April. You make a move on the trade deadline day. You got to wait 2 weeks for whatever player you picked up from the States to come in and play.
And the season's almost over.
The season will pretty much be over. So these are things that they have to look at. So if they're going to be making a trade from an American-based team, they're going to have to make do for 2 weeks without whatever the return is. If they're just going to trade him away for picks and sign someone, they have to wait 2 weeks for the guy to show up. So,
but even if they trade him for, like you say, or they sign Mueller or something like that, then you got to look, are they better than Fleury or Ouellette? Are they going to be any different? Mueller probably, maybe. And I'm not saying Ouellette and Fleury, Mete is not they're better than Mete, because if they were, they'd be on the taxi squad right now. But I think, and unless there's a major injury, you could go with either one of those guys on your
Yeah.
bench,
If
or on your 22-man roster.
you can keep
But
them there
with a major
for
injury, you're absolutely right. Mete is the guy you got to go with. So
if you need a guy long term, you don't want to have them in long term, because then you don't have any backup. You don't have any more depth. You've just spent it all. So you want Mete there, or at the very least someone of equal standing. So, but to do that, you got to wait a couple of weeks if you're moving them out. So you're going to have 2 weeks of don't get hurt, guys. Like, so it's a shell game. And if the player really wants out, hopefully he brought this stuff up to management before his agent went public. Because we saw what happened in Columbus, how things got really, really toxic really fast. But there's no John Tortorella in Montreal.
I like John Tortorella, but anyway, that's just me.
Oh, Torts is great, but once he's one of those types of guys that when his mind's made up about you, if you're at this level in his mind, he'll treat you at that level, and that's it. So, is there any other points you guys want to bring up? No.
The only thing I'll say is Mete can't lose him for nothing. That's the last thing I'll say.
Exactly.
And buy Mike Camino's book.
All right.
Yeah, buy Mike Camino's book. I don't think Mete's with the Habs next year anyway, regardless. But
no,
we'll see.
No.
We'll see what happens.
Off-season moves will be happening. So I want to thank everyone for listening. We appreciate all the new subscribers to the YouTube channel. Keep checking us out there. We'd like to grow that a little bit more. We're still just starting out there, so bear with us. Thank you for listening to the podcast on all the other platforms that we have it on, and the DMs are open. Send us some messages if you want to see us on another type of platform, on a different whatever. We're open. The door is open. We want to interact with you. We want to make the show better to keep you guys happy, to keep you guys informed and listening. So again, thank you for listening. And remember, if you are talking about it, so are we.